Okay, hi everybody, happy Monday. There's some announcements there we don't need to go through. And then I had a note for the discussion I wanted to talk about as we're moving more stuff from the deployer to release tools. We're doing this thing where basically right now we're triggering a deployer pipeline, and then release tools has a delayed job that waits whatever 45, 60 minutes and then checks the status of that thing we triggered in deployer to see if it finished or not. But this is going to create more and more issues, I think, as we kind of transfer stuff over. For example, like the Slack announcements on successful deploys. If we trigger deploy and then wait 55 minutes or 60 minutes for it to be done, if it failed after 5 minutes, then 55 minutes later, we're only sending the notification that it failed, rather than in the deploy right now, it's immediate because it knows its own status, right? So I guess the first alternative is trigger the pipeline in deployer and then have an active job in release tools that's constantly pulling it. And at least then we're getting faster feedback, but then that's, wasting CI cycles or whatever. And then I think Myra linked an issue in the Rails project that might solve our problem. And then Alessio, like you said, it was just merged. So maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I agree with you. The problem is a big one. So in theory, they merged this fix 2 days ago. And with that one, we can retry the child pipeline. And the status of the child pipeline should reflect on the parent one. Because what we had when we started working on this, so if we had a failure on the child pipeline, and we retried the failed job of the child pipeline, then the status of the bridge job.
The bridge job.
I think. Yeah, the bridge job will be okay, but then the rest of the pipeline will still be not even canceled. You're just getting that weird state like you can't play it, you can't do anything. So in theory, we should. I think it's under a feature flag, but maybe we should take a look. It's a bit too much because it's on ops, so we need a package. But yeah, so the fix is coming. So maybe we should play a bit with it on .com to figure out if it really solves our needs, but the fix should be coming. So
yeah, and I think, Myra, did you look into this at all? I think what I remember from it is that for bridge job, you can't, like we would depend a lot on passing variables to the downstream pipeline, but as far as I know, the bridge job can only do that via the .env file, and it can't just do it by like CI configuration. If they're
you can do by CI
configuration. If they're static.
You can do via CI configuration. You can.
Does that work for dynamic variables, like the deployer version, for example?
If you want to create things dynamically, then it's you need to do the env. So but you don't have to pass the. So you can generate the .env file, and generates variable based on .env file in the bridge job. So you don't have to push the .env artifacts to the downstream pipeline, but you can basically you can refer to them in the bridge job, so that the trigger job has the variable defined.
Okay.
So,
all right, yeah, go ahead.
If we are triggering a child pipeline when this one succeeds or fails, does it communicate automatically with the parent pipeline, or do we also have to be actively waiting for it?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So it will be, the status will be reflected in the parent pipeline.
And that is already exposed like in the API, so we have everything that we need. I haven't investigated, so perhaps we need to take a closer look.
So I don't know about the API, but basically this is, no, I know about the API because I was looking at this the other day. So basically there is an API call, which is for bridge jobs. So you can do API for the pipeline / bridge, and gives you all the child pipeline triggered by the thing. So, but regardless of this, so if this fix is properly working, we can remove a lot of code from release tools, because we have all those things where we actively wait for something and then we retry and things like that. It can just go away because it just became a CI snippet, and it will trigger, and then it will be just a job. So we will see a job, and this job will fail if the deployer fail, or it will be green if the deployer is green. And if the deployer fail and then we retry, it will become green, which is the most important part.
There's probably some nuance there. Like if you retry the bridge job, does it create a whole new pipeline, or does it just retry the part of that pipeline that failed?
So this was another aspect of the problem, because you couldn't retry the bridge job. So I think also Jarv knows better than me, because Jarv was kind of advocating for, I want to retry the bridge job, and I was playing with it, and I noticed that if I retry the job and just a single job in the child pipeline, and the child pipeline becomes green at the end, we are reflecting this already in the parent one, but then the pipeline is still stuck in this mixed state when something failed. So I was pushing for, let's fix this in the first place. And then if we want to do the retry. So I don't know if they also implemented retry for bridge job, or if it's just the first step.
No, the first step, they're only doing the first step. And I think they're not sure if they want to do a retry for the trigger job. It's just going to be, you're going to retry the downstream job, and then if everything is green, then it'll just update the status of the parent. I think that's the current plan, and
I mean, I think that's good enough for our purposes.
Yeah, I think so. As long as, I mean, you do get into this weird state, like Alessio says, but they're working on fixing that. I think it's pretty high priority for them, so that should be fixed.
It's merged. We deployed 3 hours ago. That's the thing.
Okay, so great. Oh, great. So then maybe we can start using that. Alessio, kind of on the same topic, and sorry, like I don't want to like make this to a huge discussion, but are we considering how Slack notifications are going to work with the new release tools pipeline? Is there an issue specifically for notifications, and whether like that changes, and whether release tools is going to do that, and whether we can finally solve this problem where we only get one failure Slack notification, and then you don't see anything for subsequent failures?
So I think this is exactly the example that Robert was referring to. So there is an issue. The issue that is linked in the agenda is just the epic one, but then there's all the subsequent issues when we want to move this or not, we want to move this or not. So each one is to be discussed and to be, figure out dependencies.
I'll take a look then.
But yes, definitely we want to move Slack notification.
I think it would still be just a problem inherent in our CI product, right? If we have a stage that triggers the deploy, that's a downstream pipeline. It does its thing, it fails, it comes back and says this job failed, then it moves to the next stage that says trigger a failure notification, right? That sends a Slack notification. Then we retry the deployer, it fails again, maybe. Does that update the status of the bridge job again and then trigger? I don't think it triggers another notification.
The problem is the failure job will only be triggered once,
right?
On the first failure.
In the failure job's mind, it succeeded at doing its thing, so it's good.
Yeah, so you would almost need to have a job that would be run in parallel, that would be monitoring the pipeline status, and then would be like looking for failures.
Right, which is kind of the problem we're facing right now, is that we're basically constantly having to monitor everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a problem regardless of triggering pipelines or not, right? Because the on-failed job only run once. So, but I think we could. So maybe, but I'm not sure about this. Because if I remember correctly, basically by default, jobs start only on success. You can say something runs only on failure, but I'm quite sure there is also an option to say run regardless of it failed or not. So it would be interesting to figure out if, in case of a failure, if we retry, so if we say run regardless of failing or not, if we can, basically if it runs again, if we retry something that failed.
But if it's already run once, it will never run again, right? It won't
run again, no. So,
we need a way to create jobs dynamically in a pipeline.
Let's do something like this. If it failed, will it rerun if we schedule a retry from something that is before? Because we can force the failure of the notification, right? I don't know. I mean, if it works, could be because of a bug.
I was thinking you could trigger a job that would just fire and forget. Like just trigger a job to be running in the background for the life of your pipeline. It would just be like constantly checking in on jobs to see if anything has failed and then sending Slack, like a Slack notifier job. But this sounds ridiculous. Like the product should just support the running failure jobs more than once. I think there's an issue open for this. I can find it because I think I opened one, and but who knows how long it'll take for that to get looked at.
Yeah, but maybe what we want to do is just some kind of so I'm still thinking aloud, right? So I'm thinking of the concept of rearming the triggering, so the failure notification. So let's say we move this to release tools, and we have it scheduled to run either on failure or on success. Let's say we can do this. I'm not sure. Let's say we can. So maybe we can say something like, if we retry, we schedule a retry also for this job, so that when it's time, it will run again. It's a manual job. It's a manual step. We probably can automate. We can have something like retry last pipeline, whatever, and we do the right thing, assuming it can work.
You retry a successful job, or do we then have to make the notification fail even though it succeeded?
Yeah, that's what you make it fail.
Okay, that's going to be confusing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with John, with Jarv, that it should be in the product, but this is what we have right now, right? So I just want to, yeah, maybe we can get. I mean, otherwise we can just stay in the same situation.
Okay, so what would be the test case we should do for verifying this new feature would actually do at least part of what we want? We need to trigger a downstream pipeline that fails and then retry it and see if once it succeeds, if it updates the parent job, the bridge job. Is that right?
Yeah, I will also test. So it updates the bridge job and continue the original pipeline. So that's the first thing. But I will
go to the next stage.
Yeah, but I will also test the behavior with on failed job. So let's say that we have in the parent in the triggering pipeline, some job that runs only on failure. So I would like to see if they run when the downstream pipeline fails, and if we restart, what happens there. Because this is important for moving notification in general. Maybe we can say just, okay, it doesn't work yet, so we don't move notification, and let's say we move QA. I'm more interested in moving QA at the moment than moving notification, for example. And maybe you say, well, okay, we can open an issue because this doesn't work yet, doesn't solve our case, and we move other things around. So another thing that we should move that is not in the issue is the warm up. So warming up right now is delayed because we wait for the previous deployments to complete, while in the past it was running immediately because we started warming up as soon as we completed the previous stage, the previous environment. So having something simple like a triggerable standalone job that just warm up the environment that you provide could be valuable, because we say, okay, we are waiting, please warm up next environment. Okay, this was completely unrelated. Sorry for just jumping this extra topic. It was just top of my mind, and I told.
Okay. I will see if I can set up the test case for that today.
So you're going to open an issue for it, Robert?
Sure. Just like, yeah, just an issue to verify the plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I think before moving on.
Yeah.
Because if that does work, we might need to refactor like what we have before start moving on more things.
Yeah. Myra, you've been converting the QA stuff. Is that like, have you anticipated this being a blocker for you? I mean, for the QA, we kind of already just do the active wait job, right? In deployer, that's what deployer does.
Yeah, no, I haven't moved anything. I'm just starting to understand what is the QA doing, like all the triggers and how can we.
Yeah, why is this QA issue URL file important?
Exactly. So yeah, I'm going to wait for your results before actually moving more things.
Okay, good. And thanks for that discussion. That was helpful. If there's nothing else, can we stop the recording, Scarback? Somebody?